Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the HR Congress podcast. My name is Ben Churchhouse, and I'm joined today by Sankalp Sharma. Sankalp is currently the Global Head of Talent Management and Organizational Development at Signify. He partners with the HR team and the business leaders to drive talent and capability development across the organization. Sankalp is an experienced HR professional with over 10 years of experience, having worked across different industries, including banking, healthcare, and lighting, both within India and the Netherlands. So it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the podcast today, Sankalp.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me with you today.
You're joining us today because you'll be speaking at the HR Congress later this year in Nice in the Organization and Leadership track on the subject of redefining the leadership and talent agenda during times of transformation, which of course is a case study from your current organization of Signify, and one that I think is probably quite topical and relevant for today. So before we get too much further into the podcast, could you please provide our listeners with some context behind the move from Philips to divest the lighting business into a standalone company under the new name of Signify?
So I think the journey began around 5 years back in 2014 when Philips decided to divest the lighting business. And the reason was they wanted to focus more on the healthcare business. That's where they saw the growth opportunities coming in. And as a result, lighting was spun off. Now, in 2014, when the announcement was made, we were not clear whether it would be a private equity sale or whether it's going to be an IPO. But over the years, couple of years is when it got clear that we will become a standalone company. We will be having an IPO and get listed on the stock exchange, which happened in 2017. So in 2017 was when from Philips Lighting, we became an independent company, got listed on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange under the ticker of Light. So that's been a journey. And last year, that is 2018, is when we announced our new name as Signify to the whole world, which has been an interesting journey. I must say that. So a lot of learnings, a lot of challenges. It's not been easy when you are, let go from a big parent company with the brand name of Philips and then become a standalone company with your own identity and your own business. So it's been very challenging, exciting, and a great experience over the last 5 years.
And I think we'll get into some of the more specific details of how that's been impacting some of the functions within HR, within Signify shortly. But just to pull back a little bit, with the changes that have been going on, obviously, for the company, but not only the company, but the industry in general, we're talking about the Internet of Things, AI, the need for constant innovation, constant change. As an HR leader in the organization, and a young organization at that, what were some of the biggest initial challenges that you had to face and overcome when you were setting up this new organization, given the kind of market that we're in at the moment?
The challenge for us was twofold, right? One was that the industry was transforming. And the other one was that we were also becoming a standalone organization. And both of these situations have very different challenges. When you become a standalone organization, it's about what's the kind of leadership that you want to have, what's the kind of culture that you want to have, what are some of the things that you would continue and keep from your legacy, and what are things that you would like to change and become more agile, become more fast, because now you are much faster in decision making. So that's one. And the other one aspect is the whole change in the technology, in the transformation. We have always been great in terms of innovation. So as an organization, we spend a lot of our resources in R&D. So technology has always been a key differentiator for us as a business. But when the industry itself changes from the lighting industry, which changed from just normal bulbs and incandescent lamps to CFLIs and then to LEDs, and then the whole transformation is very different. The skills that you need in your workforce, because of changes in technology and the changes that technology brings on how you look at your products and your services is very different. So let me give you an example there. With LEDs, what has happened is light has become more connected. It's become more digital. So for our customers, they can actually now, with light, do a lot of different things, right? So now you can solve problems like you can grow better fruits and vegetables in a more sustainable and energy efficient way using horticulture lighting. With connected lighting systems, you can, as our customers, you can do better space utilization, inventory tracking, guiding customers in shopping malls, and even manage lighting like for an entire city using street lighting. Those were things which were not possible, but with this new technology, with lighting getting into the space of LED, connected, digital, more systems, software, it's all about what is the kind of value that you bring to a customer. It's not about selling a product. And that needs a change in the mindset also of our workforce, our leaders. So what it means is it's not only about R&D and innovation, but it's also about changing the capability in sales and marketing and other functions. So earlier, our salespeople who were selling products and pushing products, they now need to start selling connected lighting solutions, which is a different skill set, because then the kind of customers that you're dealing with would be very different. You need to develop solution selling skills. Your marketing propositions need to change to become more tuned to the customer problems. And similarly, right? So operations, supply chain, everything needs to evolve with new models of manufacturing, sourcing, logistics, and that has a lot of implication for HR as a function on how do you look at building that capability within the organization at a much faster pace. And you cannot overhaul the whole company in a day or even a year. It takes time, right? So it's about changing the DNA of how the workforce operates, but also how the leadership is thinking. And during that, also keep creating value for your stakeholders, for your shareholders, for your employees. So it's not easy, I would say that.
No, it's certainly not easy. And one of the very curious things about such a transformation is that obviously Signify is a relatively young company. It comes from a long lineage, of course, with Philips, but so does talent management and a lot of HR practices in an analogous way. As a leader, especially related to talent management in the organization, how do you evaluate and approach modernizing such an important part of the organization and, of course, HR's domain, especially in the context of a young, up-and-coming, developing company?
There's no silver bullet to it. It's about making choices and then executing on them. As an organization, we believe that everyone has talent and they can grow and develop with the right support from the managers and the organization. So as organizations, we have responsibility towards our people who are working with us to make sure that they reach their full potential. And it's interesting because there's been a recent research which says globally, people believe that organizations are not realizing their full potential. They believe that they can do more. And if we have to apply that to our organization, what we see is what has changed over the last few years is basically the customization of the offerings that an organization does to its employees. It's no longer the whole one size fits all approach. That doesn't work. So we have got 7 different tools that we believe help our employees, our people, in having meaningful careers, but also owning their careers. It's easy to say as an employee, you own your career. But what does that mean, right? How can we make that happen? And that's about making sure they get the right support, they get the right tools to then think about what does a good career look like? How do you look at managing that workforce? And how do you look at then also making sure that the workforce is engaged, but they are also delivering? So a lot of things comes together. I'll give you an example on what we do in terms of when we say employees own their career, which is linked a lot in the space of talent management. So as an employee, they have full ownership of driving their career. They maintain an online profile in our HR system. So we've been using Workday as our HR system. We've been one of the first movers there. Over the last few years, it has evolved, right? So it's with any new system or technology that you launch, it takes time to get ingrained. But what we have seen over the few years is now people are much more used to it. They maintain their profiles, they can update it anytime during the year. And it's not only capturing their past experiences, because what LinkedIn does, LinkedIn captures the past experience. What other features it can also capture what do you want to do next, your career aspiration, your relocation preference, what are the kind of jobs that you would like to get into. And to support that, that's something that as an employee, you have full rights to fill it up. We as HR can see it, your manager can see it, which helps in having a right development conversation. But what it also does is, whenever there is a vacancy that we have, we only open it internally before we go external. So make sure our employees are getting the first right to apply. And then if we are not able to find anyone internal, is when we go external. Interesting is, as an employee, if I have filled up in my profile that this is the kind of role that I would like to do next, and if that role comes up, a vacancy, then they get a notification automatically in their inbox to say, yeah, you have highlighted XYZ as a role that you would like to do. It has recently come up. Are you interested in applying? So with the use of technology, you can also then guide employees a bit more, give them a bit of a nudge. You wanted to do this, it's coming up, are you interested? So that's one. But what we have also seen is linked to learning. Most of the learning happens by doing, right? So as we speak, in the coming months, we are also moving to start posting not just vacancies, but also start posting online any stretch assignment, short-term projects that we might have in the organization. So managers can go on and post an assignment, which is not a job. And if people are interested to work on a project, to develop new skills, to develop new competencies, they can find it online, and then they can discuss with their managers and apply for it. So you link the whole development conversation also to real life, on-the-job learning, stretch assignments, etc. And this is something that we will start doing in the coming months. So it's great because it helps people really think about, okay, how can I develop? What are the next career moves that I would like to do? What's the next assignment that I would like to do? Am I looking for an international role? Then there are international jobs which are posted. Am I interested in it? Not everyone is interested in an international career move, but if you are, feel free to apply. And then we have a very strong international mobility team which supports in these international moves. So if you are moving for a short term versus if you are moving for a long term, then what are the benefits that you get as an employee, and how can the organization help you settle in a new place? So those are things just from a career talent perspective which helps employees. But beyond that, we also have a lot of strong focus on succession planning, especially for the top 500 leadership positions in the company. We invest a lot of management time in it, and it has helped us to get a common understanding, not just of our people, but also to develop really strong talent pipelines for these key roles. And what we do is, we don't just look at, when we talk succession, we just not look at ready now successor, but we go really deep to say, let's also start going deeper to start identifying people who might be 1 or 2 roles away. They have the potential, they are early in their career, and with the right support, are there those people who can, in the next 7, 8 years, 10 years, take on a leadership role? So once you identify is when then the focus comes around development. So you start identifying and then you start developing. So there are a lot of things that come together when we talk about talent management. And this has not been from year one. So just to give an example, when the split was announced, so in 2014, the focus in 2015 was very different. The focus in 2015 was making sure we have the right leadership in the positions. So you fix that. And then And then the conversation starts the next year to say, okay, now the leadership bench is there, the leadership is there. Let's just start looking at the pipeline below. Do we have the right successors coming up for them? And yeah, initially it was just about, do we have a ready now successor? Because our pipelines were so thin. Imagine you are a big company, part of a group, where there could be talents from the Philips organization who could have moved to lighting business when it was still one company. But when you split, all the whole talent pool just becomes smaller internally, because the people who were part of the group, and you can no longer consider them as part of your talent pipeline. You are an independent company. So in 2016, 2015, the focus was more on making sure we have at least one ready now successor for any of our key positions. And then over the next couple of years is when we said, okay, let's start going deeper. Let's start making sure we have a ready after current role successor. Let's look at someone who's 2 roles away. So then you start going deeper. And this is a process which we do every year, twice a year actually, with our management teams. And there's a lot of focus that comes on this one. So this has been a good succession planning is like a good process that we have, which we also see whenever a role comes up, we are able to fill most of the roles, leadership roles internally, which is a proof of all the efforts that go into this program.
One of the things that I'd like to talk a little bit more about is employer branding and the employer value proposition. So with an identity and the emergence of all of these new technologies and the new market and the new branding and everything, how important was it for you to really develop a strong employer value proposition and a strong employer brand, given that you are now an independent new organization?
Oh, it was extremely important because when you need to establish your new identity as Signify. So, and it's important that your EVP reflects your promise to not just the existing employees, but also to potential employees. The journey has just begun on creating our own employer brand. I think it's all about awareness and consideration. Still, a lot of people, even within the Netherlands, the country from where we originally are as an organization, even there, a lot of people still don't know about Signify. So while we have made some progress in terms of creating an EVP and coming up with a new name and new brand, still the awareness is low. So over the next few years, the focus is going to be more and more about making sure that the EVP gets ingrained, at least with the target population that we want to hire from. So we have developed a new EVP, which reflects our new identity. It also, when we look at it, it talks also to the new age, millennials and Gen Z workforce, because it was a co-creation exercise when we created our EVP with not just our people, but also with applicants who apply for our jobs. Right? So even from external workforce, we checked up, what are things that they are looking for when they want to work for a company. The new workforce likes to work for a company with a purpose. They, company which talks about sustainability, but also we are very much in the space of technology, Internet of Things. So because we are not just a lighting company, but we are actually the lighting company in the space of Internet of Things. So that's where we want to be. And it's important when we talk about IoT, we are able to also then, be appealing to the workforce which operates in this space, which has an option to join any other organization which operates in the space of IoT. So while earlier we were competing for a different workforce, now the workforce that we are competing for has evolved. Our competition has evolved for that same talent. So it's important that we keep working on our EVP. But yeah, the journey, as I said, is just starting. We still have a lot to do on that front. The team has a full plan on how we want to activate, how we want to reach out to people, getting engaged early with the people in the campuses, with interns, graduate hires, so that we are able to position ourselves in the right way. And there is already a lot of work that's happening on that.
And so I want to just move back a little bit to leadership, just to touch back on that subject again. What are some of the things that you've redefined about your leadership agenda, and why was it important for you to do that?
So I'll go back to two things again, the whole story around divestment and the change in technology. And, divestment is never easy news, especially in a company with a strong brand name and with more than 100 years of legacy. So it's difficult. Hence, it's really important that the leaders and our team leaders, not just the leadership, but also the team leaders, they are able to communicate with our people about the importance of change and also the impact that it would have on each one of us, not just at the full company, but on each of us individually. Because even in times of uncertainty, what people like is to have a sense of purpose and understand the direction that the organization and the leadership will take in the coming years. So having that is really important. And hence we said, okay, what do we really need to have in our leaders? So we worked with them. We looked at some, external practices as well, because it's important not to do things in isolation and with an inside view only, but also have an outside in view of what's happening outside. How's the leadership changing? And beyond the normal things, what was important for us is that our leaders should be able to, as we transform, be able to lead that change, be open to change, but also be able to lead, communicate that change, manage a transformation, look at inspiring commitment from your teams, have an affinity with technology, be more digital. And a lot of people confuse digital with just tools and technology, but it's more than that. It's about how do you operate in a world which is more uncertain in this VUCA environment, but also be aware about technology and its impact. So some of those things is what we started to look at as we looked at our leadership. But also, what does it mean from a leadership perspective when you become a standalone organization? There are new things that as a leader you might need to get involved in, just from government relations, from interacting with a board of directors, interacting with media, which was earlier might not have been the case in all scenarios. But now, as an independent leader of a market, you are exposed to everything. So it's important to build those competencies in leadership.
So obviously this process has been going along for a few years now, and the transformation has been underway. Could you perhaps share with us anything that's been surprising to you about the process so far? Anything that's caught you off guard, whether it's good or bad? What's been interesting to you in this process so far?
I think it's a great question. As I said, with any change, what comes is a lot of uncertainty. And while, I was coming from India. So for me, coming to Netherlands, while it was still the same company, coming to Netherlands was the news of divestment was different. But for people who were working in Netherlands, for example, it was a big news. Because in Netherlands, Philips has a very strong brand name. And when the news of divestment comes in, is when, you see those reactions coming from people. And just managing that aspect of it was more of an emotional change for people, right? And rationality does not work, because then you have to talk emotions. So it's important that, in these times of change and uncertainty, we communicate more with our people. We explain them why things are happening, how it will impact them. Yeah, and I'm still amazed when people come and tell me, especially in some of these places, that the grandfather used to work for Philips, the father worked for Philips, they worked for Philips, and suddenly it's no longer Philips. Right? Now it's Signify. I've also come across those instances, and then that is an emotional change for someone. It's not easy to manage. So everyone deals with change in a very different way, but it's important that as a leader we give them the right direction, we give them the right vision as we go through the transformation. And it's not easy. A lot of people also fall out. They can choose not to be a part of this journey. And we've seen that happen where some people who've been very strong talents for us have decided not to be with us because either because of a brand name change or because of the rate of transformation of the industry which and the company which they were not able to cope up with. So during the way you will have these setbacks and losses, but it's important that when you go through that journey, you will emerge a strong leader or a stronger leader.
Is there anything that you personally have learnt from this process?
From the divestment or the transformation?
Divestment, transformation, either, both.
I think I've learned from both of them. I think from divestment, it's about that it's not easy. It is you need to be human. You need to have that emotional connect with people, and you need to buy into the journey. You need to buy into the story. If you are in, then you are in. So then you go through that journey yourself. From the transformation is very different. It's about how rapidly can you iterate, how quickly can you move, and how quickly can you decide, and are we able to work, especially in this age when the transformation happens so quickly, disruption happens so quickly, are we able to iterate, and are we able to still be connected with our people? So while technology helps in all of this transformation, we should not lose touch of the human element that each one of us craves for. So for me, that's really important.
So could you please explain a little bit more about what attendees at your session of the HR Congress this year can expect from the presentation?
Yeah, so it would be a mix of leadership, talent, engagement, how with the right leadership vision and support, companies can thrive, but also about what were some of our challenges, some learnings, success stories, and failures as we went through this journey. But what I would also be interested to know is, if the attendees have had some of those experiences, I'd also be open to learn from them.
Is there any way that people can reach out to you if they have any questions, perhaps from this podcast or from your session later in the year?
Absolutely. LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to me. I'm pretty active there.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and join me for the podcast. And I'll look forward to your session later in the year.
Hey, thanks, man. It was a pleasure.